Next up will be Dr. Welch with our Truman Elementary plan. It's your first one, no pressure.
Well, I have a full voice tonight, so you get to listen to all of it. I, too, have been accused of being chatty, so I will try to be concise in what I share this evening and not be too redundant as some of the things that Matt has talked about. We also are doing in our building. Unlike Matt, this is my first year at Truman Elementary, so a lot of what we're doing is getting to know one another, understanding where we are as a building, thinking about what our strengths are and how we can continue to look forward to the future and improve. So what I'm going to share with you this evening is a current glimpse of where we are and some things that we're doing to think about moving forward. Each of our building goals, we have 5, are connected to our overarching district school improvement or district improvement goals as well. So we'll touch on each of those this evening. The first one that we have looks at really an opportunity to engage our parents in the school community as a part of an active member as a part of our school. We are looking currently at revising some existing parent surveys that we have in place. We really want to understand what are our families' needs and how can we remove any barriers that may be in place for them to get involved or to engage with us more fully. We're looking at getting our input for ideas for future events that we might be planning, as well as identifying parents or family members that might be interested in helping us to participate in the planning process. So that's one of the things that we're doing in this area. A second thing that I'm just proud of our teachers is they do a really wonderful job at communicating regularly with our families. So each week they have an expectation to share a classroom newsletter with those family members. It's not only just a list of here's the things that we're doing, but also opportunities where they can get improved or ideas for things that they can be doing at home. So really trying to get them to be a partner in that educational process. Something that we've set as a goal for ourselves is to have 100% completion or attendance of our family members for parent-teacher conferences for both the spring and the fall. We have that right around the corner for the fall, and so we're looking forward to having family members come in and visit with us, learn more about how their students are doing, hopefully to share with them some strengths of their students and things that they may need to work on. We are looking at trying to be flexible with that time as well. So we know that we have 2 evenings set aside, but understanding that that doesn't always work for our families. So thinking about how we can reach out to them in other ways and make sure that they feel welcomed and accessible. We recently went through an activity where we talked about maybe in the past as adults where we have experienced feedback from an educator, whether that was in college or high school or as a student ourselves, maybe as a parent, that wasn't received well, that was negative. And so we talked about how that felt and how that impacted or maybe changed the relationship with that educator, and then thought about maybe a particular situation that we knew that could be difficult to have a conversation, and how would we approach that in a positive way? What were steps that we could take even prior to that conference time to make sure that we were building that positive relationship with our families? So we don't want this to be just a time to give a report and list off things. We really want it to be a time to come together and engage and talk about how we can support students to succeed. And then finally, something that we're really interested in is looking at how do we fully engage our community. So we have just a number of resources in our community that we would like to better understand what are their expertise, what are ways that they could be connected to our school and things, activities that we're planning, how could we utilize them, what would be things that they would be interested in contributing to our school family. So we'll be learning more about that this year, and I think that will help inform our decision making as we move forward. One area that I'm really proud of our school where we have already kind of jumped in and I think made a difference is our outdoor classroom. So Truman is a unique, we have a unique space behind our school, if you don't already know that. And it's a very large outdoor classroom. It has a long-standing history there of being something that the school is proud of. Over the last several years, I think there's been less involvement with that, and so it was kind of at a point at the beginning of this year where it wasn't as usable of a space as we would have liked it to be. So we've got our PTO, one of our moms is a naturalist and she has some great expertise, and she's really just taken the ball and ran with that. She's done a great job of connecting us with different Missouri Department of conservation agents, thinking about how we can maintain that space, utilize it for students. They've done a lot of work with standards and talked with teachers about how they can get kids out there and enjoying the outdoors. So we know it's good for kids. Research tells us that. And so we want to make sure that we utilize that space in a great way. The second area or second goal that we have as a school is to promote a positive culture. One of my primary goals this year as a first-year principal at Truman is to really build positive relationships with all of our team members. It's my desire to learn from the existing team, understand what they perceive to be strengths of Truman Elementary, where they think we have opportunities for improvement. And through some one-on-one conversations that I had with all staff at the beginning of the year, I really learned that staff was seeking more opportunities for professional development, to be able to grow as educators. And so we come together as a professional development team. We've talked about ways that we can provide access to that, whether it's through the budget that's provided to our school, ways that we can learn from one another and share expertise that we may already have. And part of that includes opportunities to collaborate not only in their grade level teams but across the building, and even think about from third grade to fourth grade and how our students are transitioning. There's a lot of important lessons that we can learn from each other there and how we can support students to grow. We also are focusing in on our newest team members. We have 5 new staff, and so we're meeting regularly with them in addition to the buddy teachers and mentor teachers that they have in place, making sure that they feel supported, that they have what they need, and they're feeling like a member of our community as well. Additional things that we're working on is just building that sense of family in our building with staff. This is important to me. We spend a lot of time with one another, sometimes more time together than we do with our own families. And so I want teachers and staff to feel welcomed when they come. I want them to wake up and feel excited to be a part of the day with the people that they're working with. We take a lot of opportunities within our regularly scheduled meetings to celebrate, to provide positive feedback to one another through kudos. And just sharing good news. And sometimes that might be personal good news, it could be professional good news, but just celebrating together. Our third goal is focused on... Yes.
I don't want to... There's a chance that this computer may start updating shortly.
Oh, fantastic.
So if it does, we will just roll along and you've got us, but just a little warning for... hopefully it'll happen in the background, but there's a chance. So,
okay. All right. Thanks for the warning.
Your flow, though. But just,
okay.
Okay.
It always happens the first year.
Yeah,
right.
It's a little test.
Right.
We'll see how
we just said it. Yeah.
I appreciate the warning. Yeah. So our third goal is focused on instructional resources. And understanding that it's critical for our students to have access to effective research-based instructional resources. All of these things are in support to the teaching and learning that it's occurring in the building. Each of the strategies that you see listed up here, they're all critical to the success of students. Rather than focusing on each one of those, some of them are similar to what Mr. Fridley has already shared. I do want to take just a closer look at the third one, positive behavior support. Currently, our building has implemented school-wide expectations. We dedicated time to teach these expectations explicitly to students at the beginning of the year over the first 2 days of school. So all students visited those different locations, such as the cafeteria, the hallways, the bus. We looked in the classroom. They had an opportunity to talk about what does it look like in those areas, what does it sound like in those areas. We demonstrated by modeling for them what the good expectations would be, maybe what the not so great choices would be in those areas, and gave them a chance to talk about that and think about that. Then teachers continued to follow that up over the course of the first 6 weeks, really emphasizing those positive pieces, looking for opportunities to recognize students when they were making those right choices, and reinforcing that through a system, Class Dojo, that we utilize as well. Our goal is to shape behavior, and so we do that by providing a lot of positive reinforcement when we see students doing what they're supposed to. Oftentimes it just takes maybe a comment about we appreciate how someone is doing this, and it's amazing how the person who's not doing that will look around and think, oh wait, am I supposed to be doing that too? And so they jump on board. So this is a very effective way for us to shape behavior in the building and create an environment where students feel supported but feel recognized and also can be focused on learning. A couple of noteworthy things here is that we are reinforcing these expectations as well during monthly assemblies called pup rallies. Kids get very excited and get to come and attend together building-wide. Each month we talk about one area of the building. We refocus on what those expectations are. We do something fun to kind of reteach that, remind them, have them participate in part of that process. And this is a shared responsibility. Each month it's a different team that's responsible for leading this assembly and talking about these different things. We have regular celebrations that we make related to attendance, related to something that we call secret student. We also recognize student behavior in those special area classrooms. And when it's appropriate, we are also weaving in like some type of philanthropy focus. So for example, next month we have a character trait that we're focused on. It's called Make a Difference, and our students are going to be challenged to find an opportunity to make a difference in their home, school, or community. All students will participate in this, and if they have an opportunity at home to do something with their families and that works for them, that's great. If not, we will look for opportunities for them to participate at school where they can make a difference. Each student will receive a fun shirt that recognizes them and their efforts related to that. And then school-wide, we'll have a food drive as well that we'll celebrate. So good for them to learn about how to give back to others. Our fourth goal is focused on our academic achievement, and previously in the building our existing plan was a little more wide open, and it was focused on all academic areas. This was something that when I came to the school this year I recognized that we need to continue to work on our data collection process, and so we have decided to narrow the focus. Not that we're not looking at how students are performing in math, but part of this goal setting process is to help our educators, our staff, to understand how we use data to inform our decision-making process. So we've narrowed this goal to focus on reading, which fits nicely with the fact that we've adopted a new curriculum. We're working our way through that. Some of the exciting things that we're doing right now related to this specific goal is taking a look at the existing data that we have. So for example, we've started with some math data at 3rd grade, and that team in particular, because they give that assessment, they have a little more of a vested interest in those results when they come back. However, it is reflective of our entire school. As Mr. Fridley said, that work starts in kindergarten and even pre-K. And so we're looking at how have our students done over the past 2 years. That's been that same test data. And we're looking at identifying some priority standards for our building. Priority standards will be things that we understand are necessary for students to know, and that we recognize that it's an area that we have an opportunity to grow in. We're going to be discussing what we're currently doing to teach those specific standards, understanding what we do well, where could we improve, and then building in opportunities for teachers to collaborate with their grade level teams above and below them to understand how does the instruction scaffold and build upon itself over the years, and identify things that maybe we could do differently. So for example, one of the things that we've discussed has been academic vocabulary. In math, it could be that when looking at greater than or less than, that it could be that someone's using different language there. And so if we're not using the same language consistently year after year, students might take that assessment, and if it asks them in a different way, it may not be that they don't know that skill, it could just be that they don't understand how the question was asked. So it's looking at our own practices as educators and thinking about how we can improve those things. Some of the other things that they're looking at as well is just things that we can do from targeted building-wide approaches to strengthen that instruction as it relates to those priority standards. Part of our important work is thinking about how do we respond when students are not meeting those academic expectations. Recently, we had an opportunity at our last professional development day to discuss each of these 4 questions that are posed by Rick DeFore and some work that he's done around professional learning communities. Our staff discussed each of these 4 questions using a collaborative structure, and they developed a shared understanding of how we currently are responding to students. We're going to continue using this framework as we progress forward this year to guide our discussions and our future work with student data. But I think they found this valuable, and it was interesting to see different perceptions and currently how we're doing things and how that varies from grade level to grade level. They had an opportunity to learn from one another, and it was really rich discussions. I look forward to our continued work here. And then our final goal is in regards to communication, and part of what we're looking for is ensuring that we're having regular, meaningful, two-way communication with our families. And so this is just a quick snapshot. Mr. Fridley mentioned Class Dojo previously. I agree. It's a great way to be able to see what those interactions look like, that communication. So this is just a snapshot from last week in terms of how many messages were sent home. So from teachers to parents, we had over 700. Class stories is an opportunity where teachers can post something in regards to, here's a picture of what we were learning today in math. It could be a student celebration, so they do a number of different ways. But again, it's a great way for parents to see a little snapshot of what's happening with their students' day. And then again, they can celebrate those positive ways that they see their students performing throughout the day. So a great way to communicate with our parents and share the exciting things that are happening. Okay, at this time, I'll answer any questions if you may have any.
Sounds like lots of good things are going on in your building also. It's been a
We're
good
busy.
start for you, hasn't it?
We are busy, yep, we hit the ground running, so.
Very good, very good.
Absolutely. It's a great staff. I will say they're eager to learn, they're excited to work with one another, so they're just an amazing team. I'm proud of all the work that they're doing, so
Great.
we're excited.
Good job. I know I got to go to your last family fun night, and you had a
Yes.
really good turnout.
We did. So our first event was just kind of easy and fun. We had a bingo night, and so we invited parents to come and attend. We had about 130 parents and students in attendance. Served a little dinner on the side, and kids seemed to have a really good time. It was a great event.
Good job.
You see the outdoor classroom coming back together this coming spring pretty well?
Actually, we have already had 2 work days, so over the course of 2 different weekends back to back, we had different groups from S&T, Conservation Department, our PTO, teachers who signed up, and they all came together. We had different lists of things that we hoped to accomplish, and we worked incredibly hard. A lot was done, and I am pleased to say the very next week students were back out in the outdoor classroom and using that space on a regular basis. The parent who's kind of been leading the charge there, she's put together a whole list of activities that her and some other naturalists can come in and teach to our classes, and I've asked teachers to find at least one connection with their standards and invite them in to participate. I know they've already been in the building at several different grade levels and have delivered different lessons related to connections that they already have in their own standards. So yeah, we're excited.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Welch.
Thank you, Dr. Welch.
Thank
Well,
you.
appreciate your